Sony has just announced a successor to their first VR headset, PlayStation VR or PSVR. They're calling this thing PSVR 2, and in this video, I'm going to break down what it is, what it looks like, and how it compares to the current king of VR, the Oculus Quest 2. So while we don't know exactly what PSVR 2 is going to look like in terms of the bit that goes on your head, I can show you what the original PlayStation VR looked like, and this was pretty much it. Kind of a Sony looking type of thing, but the biggest thing I can show you right now that is definitely changing, and we know what it's going to look like, are these controllers here. We were still using the PlayStation Move controllers, and these things were serviceable, but they didn't have joysticks. They're kind of awkward to fake like they're a hand picking things up. Not great for VR, but now what Sony showed off actually way back in March was what their new controllers are going to look like, and obviously these look like a more proper VR type thing. In fact, they're lifting this design from some VR controllers that are already on the market today, and you can see obviously that they do share some similarities with the Oculus Quest 2 as well. Obviously, you're going to be adding joysticks, buttons. You have the grips on the side, the triggers on the back. This is much more ergonomic, and I think just all around a way better design. And I want to point out again how similar it does look to the Oculus Quest 2. If you see a good design out in the world and yours isn't as good, why not take it? You know, it's fine. This thing looks pretty good. So you've got adaptive triggers, so that's cool. So on the PlayStation 5 controllers, the triggers can get more rigid, if you will, so they can adapt to pressure. Great. Haptic feedbacks are always great to have that in VR. You need that kind of rumble when you're playing Beat Sabers and your lightsabers touch each other, and that's a cool feeling. You need to have that. Finger touch detector. The controller can detect your fingers without pressing in the areas where you place your thumb, index, or middle fingers. This enables you to make more natural gestures with your hands during gameplay. So you'll see this on some other controllers. The Quest 2 has some things like this as well, where you get this kind of area around your hand. This is not just for looks. It's there to kind of sense where your fingers are in three-dimensional space. Very cool. Obviously, tracks in virtual reality, and then you have your analog sticks and your buttons. Great looking controller. But now let's look at the actual specs here on PlayStation VR and how they stack up against the Quest 2. So we're going to go here to a post on PlayStation blog, and I have to point out here that obviously PlayStation VR 2 requires a PS5. So when we look at the original PlayStation VR, which launched at like, I think $299, you have to take the PS5 and then add that $299 on top of it. Oculus Quest 2 starts at $299, ready to rock and roll. Now, PlayStation VR is going to have much more raw power. It's got a PS5 power in it, whereas with the Quest 2, it is being run by some Qualcomm Snapdragon, basically smartphone components, as long as you want to use it untethered. You can also then AirLink it or plug it into your gaming PC, in which case you're going to have parity in terms of raw power based on whatever your PC is, and AirLink does work very well. But let's look at the differences here on the actual headsets themselves. So let's look at visual fidelity. For high fidelity experience, PSVR 2 offers 4K HDR, 110 degree field of view, and foveated rendering. So there's a lot there. So effectively, let's look at the resolution here. So you're at 2000 by 2040 per eye with between 90 and 120 hertz. Well, on Oculus Quest 2, you're looking at 1832 by 1920. So the PSVR 2 is slightly higher resolution than Oculus Quest. You also have the fact that the PSVR is still using OLED displays. A lot of these Oculus headsets have moved to LCD, so what are you going to get there with PSVR? Where you're going to get richer, darker blacks, just like you do on an OLED television. So higher resolution, OLED is a great thing to have. What about the 110 degree field of view? Well, on Oculus Quest 2, it's only a 90 degree field of view. So you're going to be able to see much more around you with PSVR. This is stacking up to be a good improvement over the Oculus Quest 2. And then what about foveated rendering? Now, this is actually really interesting to me. So what is foveated rendering? Basically, in PSVR 2, there's going to be some sort of a camera inside the headset itself that is going to watch your eyes, and it's going to track where you're looking in that VR space, and it's going to try to potentially render things in such a way that, so with a regular video game, if my character is facing this way, everything behind me and everything out of my line of sight is not being rendered, right? And if I turn my character, the game is rendering ahead as I'm looking, as I'm turning to face different things. If I turn around backwards, it's going to have to render that real quick. With VR, there's a lot more headroom because you can quickly look all around. So all of that stuff has to be being rendered, pretty quickly, right? So with foveated rendering, it's going to watch where your eyes are. And imagine you've got a ring here in the bullseye, dead center of where you're looking, where everything looks crisp, clear, and beautiful. But as you move further and further away from that spot where your eyes are looking, the game can sort of tune down its rendering prowess, right? It can tune down the shaders, the texture quality. Hopefully things like aliasing don't start happening, because it's curious to see how noticeable that's going to be to the human eye. Am I going to be looking here and noticing that my peripheral vision looks like crap? I don't know. But this is really, really interesting technology, and I'm really curious to see how that is going to pan out. We also have headset-based controller tracking. Yay! This is what Oculus Quest has as well. So with Oculus Quest 2 and with PSVR 2, you're going to have something like this, where your headset has cameras on it, and it is tracking where you are, and your controllers and all that stuff is being augmented with these cameras. All that tracking is for the better because of that kind of stuff going on. And as you see here, with inside-out tracking, PSVR 2 helps tracks you and your controllers through integrated cameras embedded in the VR headset. So this is exactly what we're doing here with Quest 2. Great thing to do. It's a much better change. So with the original PSVR, you had a camera that would sit on your TV, and it would watch the big glowing orbs on your Move controllers, and not a great way to do it. This is way better. Sensory features. So talk about here the eye tracking. Headset feedback. So there's going to be a motor in the headset that will vibrate. So imagine you're walking through a space and some leaves or branches brush across your face. So it might vibrate, kind of let you know, hey, you just bumped into something. I don't know if it's going to be like a boxing game where your head vibrates when you get punched in the face. I'm not sure if anybody's going to want that or not. But as far as like something going on there's going to be something. 3D audio is great to have in VR. You have to have 3D audio, right? Now, I do want you to keep in mind that with PSVR, there's no built-in speakers, and with this, you do have speakers built in right there. Obviously, you can plug in headphones or do whatever you want to do, but you do have the option of just using the inbuilt speakers if you want to do that. And I think the last thing I want to point out here is that PSVR 2 is going to be tethered. Now, it's going to be much easier to use than the original. We had this breakout box, and it was kind of a pain to set up. Now, plug USB-C into the front of your PS5, and you're off and running. Now, as you know, with Quest 2, you can play this thing totally untethered, although you are restricted to using the onboard internals, which, as I said earlier, are effectively just phone specs, unless you want to do AirLink, or for the best experience, plugging it directly into your computer via USB-C port, and then effectively you're in the same kind of place as you are with PSVR 2. So honestly, this is a really interesting competition to me, because I think it's fair to say that as far as the specs go, PSVR 2 is going to be a better system, right? The games you're going to play are going to look great. The field of view, the OLED, all that stuff is fantastic. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're pretty good here. The resolution is similar, right? It is a high refresh rate screen. You can go up to 120 hertz here as well. You can play games on your PC and things like that. So there's competition here. But I think that the thing that still sets Quest 2 apart, despite the fact that it has some inferior hardware, it's the fact that it's standalone. The fact that I can grab this thing, put it in a carrying case, and leave with it, and play my games wherever I might be, and they're going to look pretty good. And then when I want to come home and I want to play something like Phasmophobia or The Forest or a more high-end PC game, I'm free to do that as well. So it's the flexibility and the cheaper price to get in, I think, as I wave this thing at you menacingly, I think is what makes Oculus Quest 2 such a great purchase, even still a year after launch. But I would love to know what you guys think about all this in the comments down below. Are you excited about PSVR 2? Did you own the original PSVR? It looks like a massive upgrade from PSVR 1 to PSVR 2. Please sound off in the comments down below. Stay tuned for more content just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.